The Provoke Podcast, brought to you by Provoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.
Welcome to the Provoke Media Podcast. I'm Megan Keoghan, host of today's episode and head of content partnerships here at Provoke. With its fertile ground for innovation, huge economic potential, high internet demand, and technology penetration all over the territory, there's no question that launching in Latin America is top of mind for many brands seeking to boost their global presence. The region encompasses 20 countries, all of which are rich with diverse cultures and 569 million people, and owns two primary local languages, both being Spanish and Portuguese. But developing a winning strategy, that's where the plan goes from logical on paper to complex in execution. Latin American marketing is far from a one-size-fits-all strategy. With us today to talk about the nuances and specialness of this market are Kristen Kirsch, VP of Global Marketing at NEXTracker, and Pedro Cadena, CEO of Vianews. Thank you both for being with us.
Thank you, Megan.
Thanks.
Thank you, Megan, for the intro.
Pedro, can you tell us a little bit about, we're going to get into all of the Latin American marketing nuances and specialness here, but can you give us a little background about what you do at Vianews and kind of your expertise and where you're based also for our listeners?
Okay. I founded Vianews 37 years ago, and Vianews is being business in Latin America for the last 25 years. And is one of the fastest growing regional agencies in Latin America. Throughout its more than 50 employees, Vianews develops services for technology, telecommunications, finance, and energy companies, encompassing the most outstanding global brands, including Zoom, Down, Meta, Arabic Banking Corporation, Softec, and NEXTracker, and so on. Well, we deliver services in Argentina, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, Peru, and Central America. And we headquarters in São Paulo, Brazil, but we have people in Mexico, Colombia, Chile, and Argentina, and Bolivia nowadays.
Fantastic. And Kristen, you're bringing a bit of different perspective to this conversation, but equal expertise. Can you share a little bit about your role at NEXTracker and some of your history in the Latin American markets?
Sure. Well, it's a pleasure to be with everyone today, and hopefully we have some tidbits and takeaways that you can take back to your own marketing offices and sales teams that will serve you well into 2023. I should also say that NEXTracker is a proud client of Vianews, so full disclosure. We've been working with Vianews for several years now, and have had a wonderful relationship with them. We'll talk strategy in a bit, but Pedro and I have both some anecdotes to share with the group, whoever might be listening today. So NEXTracker is a solar company, and we do what you see behind me. This is a solar farm in some countries. If we're talking about Australia, it's going to be a solar farm. If you're talking in Brazil, it's a usina solar. If you're talking in Spanish-speaking Latin America, it's going to be a planta solar, which means solar power plant. So as you can see, you have different flavors, you just different ways to tweak even how we talk about our product and how we talk about what we do as a company. So we've been around for almost 10 years. We do not do rooftop solar, and we're a business-to-business company. So the rooftop solar is one of those, I guess, misnomers, or a lot of people might think that rooftop solar is what solar is all about, because that's what most people know. That's what consumers know. Rooftop, Tesla, batteries at your home, and this and that. But solar power plants are some of the fastest growing energy source in the world. And we do that by putting rows and rows of solar on a structure. The structure is what NEXTracker creates. We also create the software that operates the algorithm, that runs the AI and the machine learning behind what the solar power plant and how it operates. So in terms of Latin America, we've been in Latin America for almost 9 years. We started off with a I'm seeing some movement of my screen. I'm sorry about that. My goal was really to show that this is an actual solar power plant in Latin America. So sorry about my background being a little strange for people. So this is a power plant in Chile. We had our first power plant constructed in 2014, and we went operational in 2015. This power plant behind me is called Quilapilún, and it actually powers a portion of the city of Santiago, which is the capital of Chile. We also have an office in Sorocaba, Brazil, soon to be opening up an office in Sao Paulo. So if anyone's looking for a job, I do have job openings in Brazil, in Sao Paulo itself. And then we also have an office in Mexico. So it's just a kind of a brief overview of NEXTracker and our work in the region.
Yeah. And you yourself are based in California, correct?
Based in California. We have 9 offices around the globe. Yeah.
So safe to say that you are an old pro, a veteran at this expanding globally conversation, which is why we're so excited you're also here with us and Pedro today. Both coming kind of from different angles of having launched it and then having, built up your business in it. So, Pedro, why don't you kick us off with a little bit about, the high level differences that we're going to speak to, because I think so many of our listeners are intrigued about expanding to this area, but you've educated me a lot, just sort of as we've prepped, about just how diverse this region is and how much that one size fits all strategy just can't. It's just not sufficient for launching in this market. So, if you could bring us through some of the top level differences, then we can kind of carry on our conversation from there.
Sure. Well, first, I think that if we are talking about Latin American, we have to talk about building relationship. Okay, for the Latin American culture, personal relationships are part of the business goals. In the last few years, we have introduced dozens of companies to the Latin American market. Initially, we advised these companies to think on medium term and building relationship. You have to take part in events in your segments. You have to go to trade shows and go to Congress and etc. Interpersonal relationships are also different according to the country and its cultural features. It's a cultural feature mainly strong in Argentina and Brazil. In Argentina, for example, in the case of a brand holding an event for a niche, we advise to invite the largest number of professionals and not just a select group of journalists. You can't invite only 6 or 10 journalists. You have to invite everyone, including the people that are in the commercial side of the media. Well, but you think also about the relationship, the social media activities are crucial, okay? Latin America are social media web users. Latin American consumers spend an average of 2.5 minutes per day using social media. North American daily average is 116 minutes. 67% of the people in Latin use a mobile phone. If you think about Brazilians love social media as a way of relationship. They spend 9 hours and 20 minutes connected per day, meaning 100 entire days a year. So we help our clients to find the social network and influencer that is most suitable for them, and invest time and relationship in them. And Christian have a good experience in social media and relationship in these countries. No, Christian?
So in our experience, looking at the markets where NEXTracker is, and I should say this in general for business to businesses, whether you're in the energy space and industrial, big civil works, or you're doing another type of industry, whether it's digital health or whatnot, building and cultivating ambassadors, social ambassadors within your company is vital. Now, sometimes it happens organically, and I'll give you a little story. When we went into Brazil, probably in around 2016, 2017, and then it wasn't only until 2020 when we started 2021 when we started working with Vianews. From the time that we went into Brazil to now, we have grown our social media presence within Brazil substantially. And a big part of that was our staff. And there's a sense of pride, especially in a mission-driven organization like ourselves, like NEXTracker, where you have, you're going for clean air. You want a cleaner and brighter future for your children, less polluted, and so forth. There's that mission piece. But when you have along the entire sales cycle to project life cycle, you have sales team members, you have engineers that are working on the project and designing the project, and then you have installers, and then you have asset managers and operations, without going into too much technical of what's what about solar, utility scale solar. There's a sense of pride of these power plants or whatever. Like I said, it could be in digital health or it could be in fintech, whatever you're building. There's a sense of pride within your own staff. So don't ever forget that that cohort or your cross-functional teams across your business can be incredible influencers out there in social media. They're also speaking about your company. What does that mean? That's employer branding. And that happened for us in Brazil organically. There's not a day that goes by that I looked on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram. Not so much Twitter. Twitter is very much of at least for the business to business that we run, it's very much oriented towards reporters, which is a whole nother ball of wax that we could get into if you want to. But with people posting their projects, posting selfies of themselves on the project, and then talking about tying it back into the mission, cleaner air for future. We're doing this for our future. We're doing it for our children. And that goes to the family relationships that Pedro was talking about. Latin Americans are very family oriented. You talked about one size fits all. There's that piece, which is, or doesn't, one size doesn't fit all rather. But the common denominators for the Latin American market, for those of you that might be looking to get into the Latin American market, it's about family. Get to know who they are, find the emotional intelligence that pull it up from wherever you might have it in your professional purview, and try to understand where the person comes from. And then going back to social media, they bring in their families and they want to be showing their families they want to show their families the power plant. So it's very interesting, social media, at least for the Brazil market for us.
Sure.
It's incredible. Yeah.
I'm hearing too,
the brand ambassador is just it's such a key piece to any company.
Yeah. I'm hearing two really interesting things, because some of our listeners might say, well, in North America, we're also proud of what we work, but the pride stems from a different kind of source is sort of what we're talking about.
From.
Yeah. And that's really like that familial pride, like the idea for most people to bring in family members to their office in Midtown Manhattan is kind of out there, if you will. But this sounds like something that seems pretty common, or something that perhaps maybe even NEXTracker encourages or welcomes or fosters. Would you say that that's true, or have anything to speak to on that?
Pedro, you want to take it first?
Oh yeah, I know. I think I prefer that you talk first, Christian, for this point. I'm
in a WhatsApp group. I'm in a business WhatsApp group for large scale solar.
Okay.
It has hundreds and hundreds of people in this WhatsApp group. I mean, what a gold mine for a marketer. Mm-hmm. So not only do we, and there is a safe space there's kind of an unwritten rule of what you talk about and what you don't talk about. But I'll say for the Latin American audience, and it's LATAM wide, including Brazil as well. So it's hey, do you know where you can get this solar panel pricing for X, Y, and Z? Do you know where you can get it for this market? I'm going there, and then we'll give ideas around that. We just ran an incredible webinar with Canal Energia, which is a Brazilian energy trade publication, who also does like a lot of online publications like yourselves or whatnot, might also be doing podcasts and webinars and content creation and so forth. So it's that, kind of that creating that energy mix. We just did this webinar with this publication, and it was incredible. We got it out on this WhatsApp group, and then another WhatsApp group of just women in solar, because it was pertaining to women in solar in Brazil, and it was incredible. Just the comments that were made, and the cascading effect of promoting something in a region using WhatsApp, and going back to your original point of like social media and what does it mean and how is it used in different countries. That happened organically. So of course, as a marketer, I'm like, oh, we're going to use that again.
And file it as a case study. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So fascinating. I see we lost Pedro for a minute. I'm sure he'll join us back, but let's keep chatting for a couple of minutes in case he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There he is.
Well, I mean, so, and then, I think we can get mired in feeling like we don't know the market, and we might, depending on what your company is doing, if you have plans to expand, we can get hung up on the fact that we might not know the market.
Sure.
There are so many resources out there. And again, always go back to basics when you're going into a market. I don't need to tell this audience that. And that's your key messages, your brand pillars. Pedro knows certainly well, has our brand guidelines. They know our messaging corridors. They know where we don't go and where we do want to go and where we want to expand, right?
Sure.
What our value propositions are. Kind of distill that for your agencies. And then going to that point, if you are going into Latin America, you're thinking about going into Latin America, find a local agency. I mean, the case in point of working with the Vianews team, they've been incredible listeners in listening to our sales team. We put our sales team on the call. It's not just me or my team working in a vacuum. It's put the sales team on, let your agency listen to what their needs are and what their concerns are with their customers, and how you can use marketing, to your advantage.
I remember that when we spoke about social media, just sort of as we were, educating and learning and discussing this podcast. We spoke a lot about the like distinctions of each country within Latin America and how the tenor, the tone, the delivery, all of this can change like region to region. However, that social media presence is just so strong and so core to the relational aspect across the market. And I was recalling, Kristen, you had mentioned the value of having local experts, if you will, or consultants in these regions that help you sort of navigate and drive those conversations. Because I know I was thinking from my perspective, like that's kind of the wild, wild west to have free flowing conversation about your brand and like encouraging and fostering it without somebody putting up some guardrails or making sure that it feels like the right messaging. And I think, Pedro, that's like an area that you come in so well, are being able to be those like on the ground experts or the conversation back and forth with somebody like Kristen.
I think that a key point here is how to build a good team or select the right agency to achieve the goals. So we have to take into account some nuances of the region, okay? If you think about social media and developed content. So, for example, first, we speak Portuguese in Brazil, while in the other countries we speak Spanish. But localizing your content is not so simple because there are many differences between the Spanish of Argentina and Mexico, for example. Okay, many times I can understand what Argentinian is saying, but I cannot understand what a Colombian is saying. It's strange for people that is foreigner from Latin America, but it's true. And we do not advise you to put someone from Peru, for example, in contact with someone in Chile doing media relations. It doesn't work. And if you are interested in doing business in Peru, depending on the sector you are in, you should consider that 45% of the population is indigenous, okay? And 15% of Peruvians do not speak Spanish. So think first about what your business goals are and which countries you need to settle in. And as Christian said, we need to have someone local, okay? And team building is a key factor for this, no?
Absolutely. Team building. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I agree completely. You know, when we go into a new market, for example, we've been flirting with Colombia, and Colombia is a new and up and coming solar market. Now we've been doing webinars and we'll attend industry conferences, but if you don't have a project or business, if you don't have traction in the Colombian market, one project will catapult us to new heights and to newfound respect and loyalty within the business of Colombia. And our customers would look at that and say, "Oh, okay, they've been in Colombia. Now we trust them." So it's hard to get in, right? It's almost like you're dividing between going into a new market and penetrating that market. And then once you have an established track record there, what do you do to maintain that market share or share a voice through social or share a voice through media coverage and content creation? So it's almost like two different approaches. It really is two different approaches, depending on the evolution of where you are with a particular market. Yeah.
So just to go back to something that you kind of teased a bit a minute ago here, when we're assuming most folks are exploring cracking the market for the first time or entering for the first time, your example that you just shared about building credibility through launching a project first, and then that sort of reputation that, they've been in Colombia or they've been in Brazil. Now they're worth the conversation, or now we can have that trust. When we think about sort of differences between like North American marketing and Latin American marketing, one thing that we've kind of discussed a bit in the past has been the breakdown of the budget and how the budgeting might look a little bit different from a marketing mix. Would you say that committing dollars ahead of time to something like a project is a critical piece of your marketing budget, or like a year-long planning budget? Where I think of, brands that are here, a lot of times that is always a question. Do we do something pro bono? Do we do something to prove we can do it? Do we take on a project at cost and then we can get the business? Or is that just such a known part of relationships and communication styles in Latin America that it's something you plan for?
Yeah. Well, let me say, in this, we have thinking about how to maximize the budget of the companies in Latin America. And there is some important points there. The main challenge is getting clients to accept that they are not buying all you can eat buffet. It's one important point. So the challenge is trying to maximize value and productivity with very demanding clients. Initially, brands must know.
those demanding clients are right on this call with us.
Okay? It's not about you. Well,
that's all right. We'll talk later.
Yeah.
Well, so I think that brands have to know what impact they want to on the business. I mean, quantity and quality of business results, and also in which segments and in which countries. It's the basic. Well, and in this way, we are able to define the best cost-benefit ratio to reach outcomes or effectiveness of activity against business objectives. Each country has a different cost, and you can combine professionals located in different regions to get the best results. So that today we have two clients with a budget in the region of $240,000 a year, and others with a budget of $750,000 a year. In our case, they are happy with the results because we can combine the budget that the customer have and what we can develop in each country of the Latin America. Okay, so it's very important that the client know what they want in the region, what the results they are expecting for. Okay, something like this.
I would like to add kind of a layer onto that, and that's specifically within your wheelhouse, Pedro, in terms of communications in Latin America. If you're going into a new market, and Latin America is on your horizon, when you think about the various activities that you need to budget for, do not forget the media markets and understanding those media markets. The media markets in Chile might be different than Peru, might be different than Mexico, might be different than Honduras, depending on where you're launching your product or service. And one of the things that Vianews was smart to kind of educate our team on is it goes back to that relationship building again. Creating friendlies. So the friendly interview. In the United States, it's just not done, at least in my experience. And I know the trade reporters and certain business reporters that cover energy across, from Bloomberg to New York Times to Wall Street Journal, they would never do a friendly. So we did what Vianews set out to do was, and when you're thinking about going into this new market, making sure that PR is part of your mix. Even if you don't have something to pitch, because once you build that relationship and you begin to foster that relationship with a reporter at any given tier of media that you want to secure, whether it's top tier media, business press, or industry press, you've taken the time, they've taken the time, and you get to know each other a little bit through a friendly interview. And there's no commitment. There's no obligation on behalf of the reporter, but this is a common thing. So when you're talking about, I'm tying in your two concepts around the budget. Yeah. And then also the differences between the US media market versus the Latin American business market, Latin American media market. What happened with that strategy is that we started to get callbacks from those reporters saying, we heard about this, or do you have a source for this particular, investment tax credit that's happening? Does someone want to go on the record with a statement? And then Vianews crafts the statement, and, we go through our approval process and this and that. But, that don't skimp on PR. Do not skimp as you're going into the market. But what happens is this, in terms of budget, going back to social media, okay? Social media is the most wonderful thing for marketers, right? Because, you can budget a social media manager or a community manager, to be making sure that they're following up with engagement, likes and comments and so forth. But once you have media coverage, that's king, right? the content is king again. What's promotion? That's queen, right? Not to use, your traditional binary kind of gender norms, but no, I mean it's more of a paradigm or a framework to think about. You lay up your content and then you dunk it, right? It's that sense of using the promotion to keep your budget constrained and on budget, but making sure that you promote and you choose wisely how you want to go out to those reporters and build those relationships, so you can start racking in those Google SEO rankings and link backs and things like that within your press releases and in your content.
Yeah. And something I'd heard you both speak on before was part of that marketing budget breakdown, where because it has a longer term ROI or a less quantifiable aspect to it, the value of funding those kinds of meetings or those dinners or those luncheons or those coffees, those types of meetings, and putting a budget around that or an allowance around that to make sure it happens, because it can be one of the easiest things to swipe off the budget when you need to make a cut somewhere because it doesn't have that metric tomorrow per se.
Well, it also depends on, if you're going to a big conference, sometimes you have to book your exhibit space and your participation a year in advance.
Yeah.
So for a big trade show that we did with Vianews in August, our CEO came to speak. He gave the plenary keynote, and we had other spokespeople and some other kind of wraparound participation within that event. We've already booked our space a year in advance. So for us marketers, we're like, let's book that right now because they can't take that away from us. Right? I mean,
relatable. We all get that down.
You have a low quarter. It's marketing that always goes. It's that play money they think we have. And it goes back to the relationship piece of doing business within Latin America. You have to budget in events.
Yes.
But the way that you can keep cost conscious, do your own event. Do something where you're inviting your customers and prospects to a hotel or some type of 2-hour session where you're offering drinks and appetizers, but you're making them feel special and included. What I've noticed in like the Latin American kind of differences, our American customers, they're like, oh, we'll see you at the next show, or we'll see you in San Diego, or we'll see you in Las Vegas. But in Latin America, if they were invited, they will remember. So make them feel really special and have your own event where you can control the narrative. And then you're only paying $5,000, $10,000 for renting out a bar for a night that's attached to maybe an industry conference that you didn't have the money to exhibit at. There's lots of ways to slice and dice your budget if you get creative.
And really working it to your advantage. This idea of hospitality and how hospitality behooves relationships. It's the same concept. Somebody you want to really dedicate focused time to, you invite them to your home, you have dinner at your home versus out at a restaurant. Like you can really work that to your advantage would be something that I'm kind of gleaning from your takeaway about hosting your own events or being able to like kind of manage that message or tell the story the way you want to tell it while making people feel in the loop and special.
Right. But get ready though. I mean, if let's say you're I'm sorry, Pedro. I'm thinking about all these experiences I've had. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be monopolizing here, but just a quick anecdote, get ready and strap in, because if you want to be closing a deal, and you got to know that you're not going to be talking about the deal for hours. At the end of the deal, at the end of the dinner, yes, you will get there, and you'll get there and everyone's lubricated and having a good time. But there's a sense of you've built trust with me and you've listened to me as a customer.
Oh, yeah. And you have to build this relationship with the group of the people, no? Yeah, I mean, you have to construct this relationship with the the supervisor, the manager, the director, the CEO,
procurement,
the
whatever it might be.
Procurement, you have to build a relationship with them, because it's, remember that the Latin American people tend to be highly group oriented. Okay, so you should build a relationship with a group of people. It's the secret. It's an important point, and it is what Kristen is saying. It's about events, and it's about everything that she said.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, we could talk for a long, long time, kind of much like these dinners, except for it's middle of afternoon for all of us. However, I just think that we've scratched the surface. I have to say, you both have made Latin America sound like a truly inviting and exciting place to come do business. But I'm hearing, I mean, the themes are time and time again, what we're hearing, this relational and this commitment to investing in relationships before the business is even ever on the table. And that is truly something remarkable and special in today's culture and where our world is today, to invest in people and to know their families and to know their values. And I think it is just such an inviting thought. So thank you both for sharing that with us. I know I've summarized, but I'm sure you both have some parting thoughts here. So I'll let you both go first. But Pedro, thank you so much for bringing us all together today.
Oh, yeah, it's my pleasure. I love to talk about the communication and to talk about my region. I know that you have a very huge potential, and the companies will be investing in Latin America in the coming years. And, remember that a relationship is important, and it's very important to have someone there on the ground, okay? Thank you so much, Megan, and thanks so much, Christian, to take part in this podcast and sharing your thoughts about Latin America.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I mean, I guess my only takeaway would be authentic. Just a few weeks ago, we had Halloween here in the United States, and I had a meeting with a Brazilian organization, and I forgot that I was wearing my cat and hat outfit. And I was thinking, oh no, just as I was opening up the Zoom call and I realized I had whiskers and a hat and, a bow, and the people that I was meeting with for the first time, and I wanted to impress them, right? And I wasn't even thinking about it. I opened the Zoom and I realized that I had a cat in the hat outfit on, and they said, "We love it. That's exactly the type of people we want to do business with. Be authentic." I know everyone hears that all the time, of being authentic and being original, but doing Latin America business in Latin America is very special, and it's an honor. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks so much.
And I think to our listeners out there, both Kristen and Pedro would love to connect with you on LinkedIn, continue the conversation. We here at Provoke hope that they will also continue the conversation with us, because this has been an absolute delight to meet both of you. And thank you so much for your time today. This has been the Provoke Media Podcast. I'm Megan Keoghan, and we are signing off.
You've been listening to the Provoke Podcast, brought to you by Provoke Media and produced by the international broadcast specialist Marketeers.